Today, I want to take you back to one of the greatest moments in human history, the day humanity touched another world. This is the story of the space race, of courage, technology, and a dream that once felt impossible. And it is the story of the man who first stepped on the moon, Neil Armstrong. Part 1. The space race begins. Our story starts in the 1950s. Two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, were competing in science, technology, and space. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the world's first satellite. It shocked America. The space race had officially begun. The United States knew it needed to respond. So NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, was created in 1958. Its mission was simple but extremely difficult. Put a man on the moon and bring him safely back to Earth. President John F. Kennedy made a bold speech in 1961. He said, "We choose to go to the moon, not because it is easy, but because it is hard." That single line changed history. NASA's long road to the moon. NASA could not simply send astronauts to the moon right away. They needed new rockets, new spacecraft, new suits, new computers. Everything had to be invented from scratch. So NASA created three major programs. Number 1, Mercury Program, 1961-1963. Its goal was to send the first Americans into space. Number 2, Gemini Program, 1965-1966. Here, astronauts practiced spacewalking, docking spacecraft, and flying longer missions. Number 3, Apollo Program, 1967-1972. This was the final step, landing humans on the moon. The road was not easy. There were failures, explosions, and tragedy, including the Apollo 1 fire that took 3 astronaut lives. But NASA continued learning from every mistake. Apollo 11, the mission of missions. On July 16, 1969, the world held its breath. From Launch Pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center, the Saturn V, the most powerful rocket ever built, stood waiting. It was taller than a 36-story building, filled with millions of liters of fuel. Inside were 3 astronauts: Neil Armstrong, Commander Buzz Aldrin, lunar module pilot Michael Collins, command module pilot. At 13:32 UTC, Saturn V launched into the sky, shaking the Earth with power. The journey to the moon had begun. Reaching the moon. It took 3 days for Apollo 11 to travel through space. On July 19, 1969, they entered lunar orbit. From inside their small spacecraft, the astronauts looked down at the moon, silent, empty, and untouched for billions of years. Armstrong and Aldrin moved into a separate spacecraft called the lunar module, named Eagle. Michael Collins stayed in orbit in the command module named Columbia. Then came the message the world remembers: the Eagle has wings. They were on their way to land. The first moon landing date. Time and method. On July 20, 1969, at exactly 2017 UTC, history was made. NASA received the message, "Houston, Tranquility Base here, the Eagle has landed." After a tense descent, using a combination of a computer guidance system, manual control by Neil Armstrong, a rocket engine called the descent engine, and radar for altitude, the lunar module landed safely at a place called the Sea of Tranquility. Humanity had reached another world. Hours later, at 02:56 UTC on July 21, 1969, the first human in history stepped onto the moon. That man was Neil Armstrong. He climbed down the ladder, paused, and said the most famous words ever spoken. "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Right after him, Buzz Aldrin stepped onto the moon. He described it as magnificent desolation. Together they walked, collected rocks, set up scientific equipment, planted the American flag, and spoke to millions of people watching on Earth. They spent about 2 hours and 15 minutes walking on the lunar surface. After their work was done, the astronauts lifted off in the top half of the lunar module. They joined Michael Collins, who had been orbiting the moon alone for over 20 hours. Apollo 11 then fired its engines and returned to Earth. On July 24, 1969, they splashed down safely in the Pacific Ocean. NASA had completed the greatest adventure in human history. Why it mattered. The moon landing was more than a scientific achievement. It was a message to the world that humans can dream big, humans can solve impossible problems, and when humans work together, nothing is out of reach. The space race ended, but human exploration had just begun. Neil Armstrong, the first human on the moon, became a symbol of courage, science, and hope. Ladies and gentlemen, what began as a competition between nations became a victory for all humankind. On July 20th, 1969, at 2017 UTC, NASA proved that the impossible is possible. And when Neil Armstrong took that first step on the moon at 0256 UTC, he didn't just change history, he changed the human story. Thank you.